Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, Positive Philter listeners. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by one of my Dean guests. If you've been following along, I've been doing a Dean mini-series where I've been reaching out to all the various deans of colleges and schools here at George Mason University to learn about their career journey, why they did what they did, how did they get here, both as an inspiration to me and my aspirations in higher ed, but also to serve for students that they serve that careers take them in multiple different places. So I'm joined by Dean Ozerdem, and he is the Dean of the Carter School of Conflict and Resolution. And so this is, I know a few students that actually come through his program, so this is really interesting. I might send that out to them and say, hey, check out this podcast with your Dean. But before we get started, Dean, can you share a little bit about your career journey? Just like overall, kind of like a little bit bio about yourself for the listeners.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Philip. I think my career journey has been quite an interesting one because I'm the Dean of the Carter School for Peace and Conflict Resolution, as you said. And typically, you would have expected that I might be coming from a social science background, right? But actually, I did my undergraduate degree in engineering.
Okay.
Right? So I graduated as civil engineer. And so I never practiced civil engineering because I felt that, it wasn't really me. Right?
Okay, let's get, okay.
So, that's kind of the starting point. Then I decided that was in Istanbul, Turkey. That's where I studied. And then I had the opportunity of going to UK for my master's. And after that, PhD. And then I stayed at the place where I did my PhD at the University of York as an academic, and then moved to another British university before coming here in 2019. So in a nutshell, there are three countries that kind of contributed to my career so far: Turkey, United Kingdom, and United States.
I love that. I love that journey. So why did you study engineering as an undergrad? What was the thoughts? And then I love your story. When did you kind of figure maybe that's not for me?
Why I studied civil engineering, that was probably because what the clever boys did, in my kind of circle of life in Turkey. It was a top school, and bright students usually went for engineering or medicine, and so I just want to kind of show that, I was a clever boy. Yeah. But then when I was studying civil engineering, and for which I was quite good. I mean, I graduated really with the high grades and everything, but that was kind of something missing, the missing link of engagement with society and kind of the social cultural aspects of life. Right, so I was kind of in search. I was thinking, what can I do to have a sort of broader and deeper impact, in terms of my occupation and my career. So going to the UK kind of gave me that opportunity because there the whole higher education environment was much more interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. As a civil engineer, I discovered that was a field of conflict resolution, and these people are interested in the reconstruction of war-affected communities, and in countries like Afghanistan, Syria, Sierra Leone, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, all these war-affected countries.
Yeah, I was about to say war conflict resolution. I mean, conflict zones that have a economic effect and infrastructural effect on those communities.
Absolutely. There's often a big distraction of the infrastructure, housing, and services, and engineers actually play a very active role in the reconstruction process. Yeah. So I thought, actually, this may be my opportunity, right, doing something that what I studied, but at the same time, much broader impact. So that was kind of like my point of career change.
What was the master's in? Graduate program?
My master's was in built environment.
Okay.
So it was kind of halfway through.
Yeah.
But then I did my PhD in post-war recovery studies.
Oh, okay.
And my PhD topic was the reconstruction of water supplies in urban areas and how to use that for peace-building purposes. Because water as a lifeline is needed by everybody. It doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your religion, right?
You need water.
And yes, and it could be such a connector. So I did my case study was Bosnia-Herzegovina in the Balkans. So we are talking about mid-1990s.
Okay.
So in the aftermath of the disintegration of former Yugoslavia, there was a civil war. And there were groups like Serbs, Croats, and Muslims, Bosniaks in Bosnia-Herzegovina in that civil war. So my PhD idea was like, if there are communities kind of mix with these different population groups, can we use lifelines and their reconstruction for bringing these communities together during the reconstruction process? So reconstruction as a means, as a tool for peace building.
So I'm thinking like, okay, like you mean like the community well? They're going to come to the community well and get water, or I can see that, think about countries that water is a limited resource, right? Where I was like watching videos where someone would have to walk maybe miles and miles with a bucket to bring back, bring back the bucket of water, and that's almost a thing of power and privilege.
Yes.
Was that kind of around that too? Like how water was a power and privilege in war-torn countries?
Yes. I mean, whether it's the peacetime or wartime, human beings need water, right? And water can be used as a tool, as a means of war too, right?
Cut the water off,
right? And or you can actually use it as a means for peace building. So there were settlements, communities, for example, in Bosnia. Despite the war, they still live together, these different groups.
Yeah.
So how you rebuild their water supplies really mattered, because you can actually bring them together if you involve them, engage them in the reconstruction process, for example, right? So you are really sowing the seeds of peace during that process, right? So that was the whole idea. That kind of like allowed me to enter peace building field, right? Conflict resolution. And that's how I started.
Now, one of my thoughts is like the thing about the interdisciplinary discussions you're having around peace building. So you had the engineer in mind. Who were some other people on the team? And what, did you have like a sociologist on the team? Like, who were some other people on the team? And because you had the engineering background, what was, the unique thing that you brought to, the problem solving?
That's a very good question, Philip, because when it comes to post-war reconstruction and peace building, you really need to have a multidisciplinary team, because it's not only physical reconstruction, but it's also social reconstruction, it's economic reconstruction. So ultimately, it requires all disciplines to work in that space, right? So, and when it comes to, for example, the reconstruction of water supplies in a town or in a city, right? It's not only the physical reconstruction, but then you need to think about management and operation of the system, right? You need to think about the whole accessibility to water supplies, pricing of it, the kind of like the community engagement. So it's a full package. It's really interdisciplinary way of building peace. And especially if the frame of mind is about building peace, so that you can bring those warring sides in the process, right? Not only you are building a system in infrastructure, but actually, you are building bridges between these divided communities, right? So I think that was really kind of the starting point. And by the time I finished my PhD, that was the end of war in Kosovo, in neighboring Kosovo. That was a NATO intervention. And there was a problem with the former combatants there. What to do with them, how to reintegrate them into society. So I got funding from the United States Institute of Peace, USIP, here for a one-year program. And then I start to work on that subject, right? So I describe myself often as not just an academic, but I am an academic with the practice.
Yeah, I was about to say practitioner, 100%.
And that was really interesting area of research, and because if you want your peace building to be sustainable, you got to do something with veterans, with ex-combatants, their reintegration, because it can really cause lots of problems for security and also socioeconomic development of your country, right? So with that area of study, I went to Afghanistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, spent lots of time in the Balkans, in West Africa. So I think I've been very lucky.
Well, can I just ask a quick question? Like, do you go during these conflicts, or do you have to wear are you in there with a bulletproof vest, or you go afterwards?
My engagement is slightly after.
Yeah, I was my face was you're naming all these places. I'm like, well, it's kind of danger zone, man.
But in protracted armed conflicts, there's really no end to some of these conflicts, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I've been to Afghanistan more than half a dozen times, and certain times I went there for different purposes, research, practice, and all that. That was a conflict
time,
the conflict time. So there's a kind of a level of informed risk-taking here.
Yes.
So you got to work with local authorities, international NGOs, organizations, just to make sure that you are not taking unnecessary risks for your well-being and others, right? As a researcher, as a practitioner. But, this whole idea that my research has been contributing to improve the lives of war-affected people, that has been just a wonderful job satisfaction for me, right?
Yeah, it's purpose-driven.
Yes, absolutely. I never wanted to become an academic just to kind of publish.
Yeah.
I want a lot.
You wanted to see it hey, I don't want to be just like the library academics where I write a lot. I wanted to see the things that I implement make a tangible change in the world.
Exactly.
I write it, I have the science, I have the data, but I want you to see implementation.
Exactly.
And from implementation, data-proven results.
And in peace and conflict studies, we have research methods that involve war-affected communities. Mm-hmm. So they are not just like the subjects of the research, but they are the active participants of knowledge development, right?
Yeah, one of my thoughts too is navigating tough conversations. I think you described that. I mean, that's the core part of retribution, and these are very difficult, tense conversations.
Yes.
Can you share a story where maybe in the water situation, or how do you navigate these very tough academic discussions, right? Like, there's still the logic part, but there's very emotionally driven, right? Like,
absolutely.
You can't be a complete. I don't know if you watch Star Trek. You can't be completely Spock.
Yeah.
Spock the Vulcan. Spock was the one that was like, I just turn off, emotion. I don't have emotion, but these are very emotionally invoked problems.
Yes.
And so, but you're coming at it from an academic realm.
Yes.
I know we're very emotionally invoked here, but here's data to prove that this will help or support. How do you navigate
That's
emotional
very
things?
Interesting, the way you describe, what we do in the field of mediation and negotiations and conflict resolution. But you're absolutely right. As a third party, when you engage in such environments, right? What you do, how you engage with the conflicting parties really matter. Right, so I think for me, there are certain conflict resolution skills that you need to have, right?
Yeah.
So actually, what we are talking about here is something that we do in our everyday life. So, Philip, as a member of your family, as part of your organization,
I know where you're getting at,
as part of your community, you do dispute resolution all the time.
You negotiate all the time.
Yes, right? Yeah. So this is not something that's so kind of added. It is very much part of our lives in all sectors, industries, every walk of life. But what matters is that if you want to do this professionally, right? And even if you don't do it professionally, if you do it better in the work environment and family, you can actually, hone down some of the skills, improve those skills by taking appropriate courses, programs like what we do here at the Carter School, right? So, few of them. One, you got to be a very good listener, right? We know that, right? If you want to kind of resolve disputes, first you got to know how to listen, not just hearing but listening, right?
Listening, yeah.
That matters. Number two is that how you deal with conflicting environments and the parties, like your behavior, your approach to them, like as a person, as a mediator, right? Setting the scene, establishing the rules of engagement,
establishing boundaries.
Yes, you just kind of getting. And in fact, many peace processes, any dispute resolution, like 60-70% of work really are undertaken before the negotiations start.
Okay, like expectation setting, like we're going to come to this, we're not going to curse each other out, like things like that. Like,
exactly.
What are the standards or rules? Like,
yeah, I mean, trust
you talk,
building,
I talk
right?
first.
Why the conflicting sides would come to the table and engage with each other in a peaceful way, negotiating, right? That's the role of the third party, a mediator, right? That's what we do. So that is the kind of second class of skills that you will need. Number three, you got to be very calm and collective. Right? So, because any dispute resolution will have ups and downs, right? Probably one thing that a mediator, a peacemaker always hears is no, the word no, right? In the negotiations, you always get the kind of like, no, I don't want this. This is not really good enough, right? So in that, you need to have the resilience. You cannot give up. Because you need to come up with innovative ideas. So for me, conflict resolution is all about innovation. Yeah. Innovation to come up with ideas and ways of really showing with the parties that out of a settlement, they will all gain something.
Yeah, agency. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone has agency.
Exactly.
And I think you're thinking, what I'm hearing is it's not an absolute no. It could be like a not yet or no. Something like, maybe I'll consider it. It's a no right now, but because your timeline is too fast. Or it's a no right now because we want more money. But it's not like a complete no. Yes. Absolutely. It's like, what can we do and keep going?
And in a kind of tactical way, the parties may be saying no to start with in order to increase their gains out of negotiations, right? That's why a good listener, really try to understand the position and the behavior and attitude, why they do in the way they do, right? Certain things. What are their drivers here and their positions? And so, in that kind of sense, a good peacemaker will be able to come up with ideas and alternatives. And if you can make it in an interactive way, so that these are not ideas coming from you as a third party, but they are actually being created collectively by the conflicting sides. Right?
It's like surveys and data and what else? Testimonials.
But
I'm trying to think of creative ways you can bring that in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think data and information, that really matters. But, asking the right questions sometimes make all the difference, right? So, like, say we were talking about, issues of water supplies, right?
Yes.
So, in this particular, challenge, right, just pose that challenge to conflicting sides. So you all need water.
Sure.
And for the supply to be at this certain level, clearly we need to do ABC. How do you think that we can actually reach this goal? What the parties need to do, right? Yeah. So get their input in that process, right? Rather than going externally and top down saying that this is the solution. Yeah. People never like that.
They like to learn or be a part of the process.
Absolutely. And if you do that in conflict resolution and peace building, it becomes much more sustainable because then they own it. The ownership of peace is as important as what that peace is, right? Because earlier on you mentioned agency. Everybody have that agency. And as peacemakers and peace builders, our goal is really just to utilize and mobilize that agency as much as possible, right? But agency of not just one particular group. There are different segments in that group, right? Whether you are a young person or not, whether you are a woman or man, whether you are part of it, yes. Yeah. That is really important. And so as a peace builder, you really need to tap into intersectionality of the society and these nuances.
Now, since you said conflicts happen all the time, we live it every day, I can think about like a time where we have a standoff with my kids for the Cheerios, right? Like, you're going to go to bed, right? Then you figure it out, like, we do this, and then you're literally working negotiation. Is there, what is to the point that not all conflict is bad? We actually should spark conflict to get to problems. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that is like the Peace and Conflict Studies 101. That's how I start, right? Because actually conflict is something not bad at all. Although we kind of create a binary of peace and conflict, it's actually peace and violence.
Okay, Not like if you were saying like a spectrum,
if you put peace on one end, the other end I would put violence, not conflict.
Gotcha.
And the reason for that, I think as a society, we need conflicts. Conflict for me is the difference, different ideas, different ways of doing things, right?
Conflicting, that's like the word.
Just imagine, life would be otherwise very boring, isn't it? If we agree with each other on everything, right? Yeah. There would be no progress, there would be no development, because if everybody thinks, in the same way.
Homogeneity,
right? Yes.
It's not good, right?
So in that way, conflict becomes problematic when it involves violence. Right?
Okay.
So this is why we use the term conflict transformation.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So conflict resolution is about finding kind of some sort of settlement, political settlement, right? But conflict transformation happens and should happen almost in a continuing manner, right?
All the time, yeah.
And you can only do that by enabling those different parties in the community or in that particular setting, enabling their capacities as a conflict transformer. So as long as it doesn't turn into violence, I think conflict is just something not bad at all. We should, in fact, cherish it.
Yeah, Is the goal of a person that studies in your school to be a conflict transformer? Is that kind of like, like if that's a badge that they want to wear, is that an identity that you want the students to wear when they leave?
Absolutely.
George Mason?
I mean, our graduates, the graduates of the Carter School, they are, to start with, change makers.
Okay.
Because they are able to operate in complexities. Okay. So they can actually, act as a change maker for transforming the conflict, for building peace, for preventing conflicts, right? So the type and the level of engagement with conflicts can easily differ, right? And in different industries, sectors, you see different application of it. So, our graduates work in the government, for example, local, state, federal. They work for international organizations, NGOs, working in humanitarian field and peace building, right? For the United Nations in different parts of the world. Our graduates also work for business, for HR, for these industries. Our graduates work for a spectrum of like the hospitality and education and the arts and all these fields, right? But also our graduates work in organizations or programs for well-being.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, I can make this claim, and I make this claim. Our graduates have higher employability rate than any other groups.
Oh, there he is.
Because, as a conflict resolution expert, you are needed in every industry, every sector, and every level of organization.
So that title, they are peace builders, because peace building can happen everywhere, and they're peace transformers, because that can happen anywhere. And so I guess that's the big selling point to a kid. It's like, Mom and Dad, I'm studying this. What am I going to do with it? They can, hopefully, if they have this data, they can say, I can go anywhere. I can do this, and this.
Yeah.
So you said you came in, 2019?
Yes.
What was the attraction to leave UK to come to the United States? And what was some of the pull that made George Mason an attractive to cross that pond for you?
For me, to start with, where we are, the Carter School for Peace and Conflict Resolution, this is the oldest conflict resolution school here in the U.S. Okay. We celebrated our 40th anniversary last year.
40th?
40th.
So, I mean, just as old,
like the university.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
It started like a small center with a few faculty, turned into institute, and then a school. And 3 years ago, we renamed it after Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, right? So that was the evolution of the school. So for my field of peace and conflict studies, this is the number one place.
It's the benchmark. It's the pillar. Got it.
Over the last 40 years, the school has pioneered the development of this field, right, with the work. And
the research,
for me, it was a point of inspiration, throughout my studies and my career. So when there was an opportunity of leading the school, I thought, well, I'm going to go and, submit my application, right?
Yes.
Because I want to lead this school. If I want to be a change maker in the field of peace and conflict studies, this is the right place.
It's the place.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the attraction of the school for me to start with. But when I came here, then I started to discover about George Mason University, right?
Yeah.
The largest public university here in Virginia, the most diverse, and kind of like the high percentage of first-gen students, international students, like the ethos, inspiration, aspirations of the schools and the university. Like the university that deals with global challenges, right? So really want to kind of change, and we have a footprint in all these areas. For somebody like me working in peace and conflict studies, this is just like an amazing place to be, so that I can really put my own footprint in
this.
It.
Yeah. Now, 19, that's right before 20. So how was navigating this new experience, and then boom, COVID hit?
Oh, God, Philip. So what happened? Obviously, it was August 2019 when I started here.
Yeah, so you at least had one semester. Not like the president. I felt bad for him because he came in. Like, I remember meeting the president in February, shaking his hand. And it was like the next week was COVID. So
in comparison to Dr. Washington, I was luckier.
Yeah.
Right? So, I thought, oh my God, it's a great university, great school. And also, it's very close to DC and certain lifestyle and everything, right?
Yes.
And obviously COVID started, shut down and everything.
Yeah.
So I think during the COVID, the pandemic, like every higher education institution, we've faced similar problems.
Yes.
But, one of the critical challenges for us as the Carter School was, teaching peace and conflict resolution, mediation, negotiation.
Yes.
We really value in-person engagement.
I was about to say nonverbals. That you could tell if I got a chance in an argument if I'm giving you the faces that. You can lose all that. So
we have really excellent online programs.
Yeah.
We run them in a hybrid way, so we use technology as well as possible. But in terms of the nature of the field, that was a kind of a critical challenge for us. And the second point is that, and this has been the case for everybody, and still, I guess, is that the overall well-being of our students and our faculty, our staff, right? It was a really tough period, just kind of make sure that everybody held together.
Yeah.
And, kind of that resilience, to deal with the challenges. And I must say, I'm so proud of this, and both for the university and also particularly for my school. I think we emerged from pandemic in a much stronger way.
I was about to say, you think resilience, elasticity, that, we got stretched so much, that proves how strong we are.
Absolutely, because, in the field of disaster management, there is a particular saying that every disaster creates their own opportunities.
Yeah.
Because you can rebuild more safely. You can like engage communities in the reconstruction process, so you build peace as part of that, right? And so in a way, it was a very tough period, and I think we did well, given the circumstances. And we emerged from the pandemic as a school, with new programs and new ideas, and one of which was the use of technology.
That's it.
How to use technology effectively. And during that process, we established several peace labs, one of which was peace engineering.
I was literally about to go into that because I just read that today before I did this. It came out in the George, actually. I looked at the George, and they said a new minor was created, which is peace engineering.
Yes.
And I literally was going to bring that up today. Can you explain the thoughts behind that? And I bet this in your you talk. This is perfect for you, engineer by trade. Are you teaching these classes yourself? Did you finesse this a little bit? I think we should have a minor, and it was basically you just kind of wrote it for yourself, whatever.
Throughout my career, I think your point that, my background as an engineer, you're spot on. I always felt that, we really need to find effective ways of leveraging engineering and technology for the purpose of conflict prevention and peace building. So when I came here 5 years ago, one of the things I wanted to do for the school was really kind of magnify the impact we have. And I see technology giving us lots of opportunities with that, right? So, you have AI, big data, you have the kind of all other means of technology that can be applied, in the different aspects of conflict prevention and peace building. So I was thinking, let's start this as a peace lab, faculty and students working together, and then think about the long term, what we can do, right? It's a really an emerging area. There are only a few places working on peace tech at the moment, and I wanted my school to lead that process.
Be in the front. Yeah.
So with the College of Engineering, we decided to go for a new minor, peace engineering minor. It's in the catalog. It's the first semester starting in fall. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really excited that engineering students and peace building students will be studying together.
Yeah, so did you, did you just go up to Dean Ball and say, I got this idea? Or was it the faculty members underneath connecting? Who were the people connecting?
I initiated the process, and with Dean Ball and others, we identified a few people from each college, and they did quite a bit of brainstorming in terms of the content of that minor, what needs to be done, and everything. It's never easy to put things together.
I was about to say, these are two. I was about to ask that. I could see peace and conflict. Oh, this is going to be 18 credits. Well, 12 needs to come from our program because ours is more related. How do you negotiate the breakdown of the curriculum?
The negotiation was really for the greater good of our GMU students, right? So in a minor like this, we collectively decided what they should learn.
And how many credits, and economically, how we can make this economically feasible. If it's a minor, it can't be 30 credits. It can't make them spend more money for school.
Absolutely, and another kind of there are set parameters that you need to kind of meet when you organize a minor. But the content-wise, the priority for us was that we wanted our students taking this minor to say that, well, actually, when it comes to peace engineering, I know a few things.
I'm a subject matter expert.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I love it.
So that was really easy. But this is not done frequently. You would have minors, in an interdisciplinary way, but this is truly multidisciplinary, engineering and peace building, right? Social science and engineering coming together, imagining a minor, and that shows how innovative we are at this university, right?
I think one of the things, too, I found from talking to all the deans is that you already said, well, you're coming from a space that we were already known in this space. But at the same time, we're still kind of that chip on our shoulder university. And you kind of spoke to it. Was also the attraction of George Mason, the opportunity to do new stuff, because that's what I've heard from a lot of deans, is that another rationale in your decision, because we're young or a younger institution, we have a lot more flexibility in trying new things.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to, what that university is about, You know, I mean, obviously, age, resources, and the type of students, the geographical location, and all that, they all matter. But for me, what matters is that, you know, how you look at things, right?
Yeah.
So being a young university is not necessarily a disadvantage,
No.
right? You know, in fact, it can provide you with lots of opportunities that old universities may not have, right? Or, you know, you may have, you know, the particular geographical location type of students. So my motto is, like, we don't need to be the same like others.
Yes.
Right? You know, I want to know, you know, who we are and why we are different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is that the priority is the quality.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And in the quality, you know, it's not only the education and research, but what we do to change the lives of our students.
I love it. So let's say this is the first year, you know, of this minor. I'm just thinking about it. In your mind, you know, because, you know, maybe it's the first cohort, right?
Yeah.
What is a successful metric of that first cohort? That they all got a job in this field? Like, what is some, just throw it out. What's something where you said, at the end of, you know, from the end of this cohort, I would feel like this hit everything I needed to hit if X, Y, and Z happened?
I think there are two clusters of milestones and the, you know, like the way we can measure our success. One is that, you know, more tangible. I know that those students completing our peace engineering minor will get a job more easily, because I'm thinking that their employers will say, hold on a second, you know, this, you know, this guy, you know, this person is not only an engineer, but this person actually can do conflict resolution for me.
Yeah.
And in all you know, types of engineering, there is always a conflict with, you know, between different actors, right? So in a tangible way, I think you know, such a minor will mean increasing their employability prospects. In a more kind of intangible way, you know, engineering undertaken in challenging environments, whether it's affected by a disaster, by a conflict, by war, by displacement, right? You know, engineers work in all kind of all sorts of environments. You know, for them, as part of their daily engineering duties, if they are able to do peace engineering, you know, engineering for the purpose of peace, or engineering that doesn't create new conflicts, engineering that can actually, you know, sort of engage communities effectively. I mean, all these things, like the ethics of technology, right? You know, that's what our minor will achieve, right? Give a different type of vision to our students. Think about their engineering as an occupation.
So I'm thinking, one, students, y'all need to complete your career outcome survey so we can get that data to see where they end up. And then two, stay in touch and tell us what you're doing as alum, right? Like,
exactly.
That's the way, like how are we going to get this information? We got to get it on our survey, as well as, you know, when you look out and say, well, look at these alum out there. That's how you know, like, look at these alum out in the world. That's how you know you're doing well.
Absolutely, absolutely. This school has around 2,500 alumni.
Okay.
And
oh, wow, 2,500. So that's, you're still a sample size you can get to them, right? Because we have, like, from my understanding, it's like we have over 700,000 alum. But that's a very tight window.
For the field of peace and conflict studies, that's quite a large alumni.
Yes.
Right? And and when, you know, when I look at them, you know, working in different places, God, I mean, they do an amazing job. Right? And so those who stay in academia, actually, you know, they went and opened their own conflict resolution centers in different universities. So that hasn't been really good for us.
Well, it might not be good for the enrollment, but it's kind of like that. I watch a lot of basketball, or like think about the Rick Pitino school. Like most coaches, they build up their assistant coaches, and then they go back and they're like, all right, are their values basically just reiterated from like out to this?
Absolutely.
But I get it. Go to George Mason, y'all.
It's kind of tongue in cheek. You know? I'm so proud of our colleagues. Kind of like open up this, you know, conflict resolution institutions in different parts of the world. Especially, I really like seeing when they do this in the global south.
Yes.
So because most armed conflicts, are in the global south. So we need to change that power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So because the best centers, best schools in conflict resolution are in the global north. It just creates a kind of a power dynamic that we need to train, educate people from the global south so that they can actually work in their own environments, right?
We need to take it out there.
Yes. So I think in that way, the school has a great footprint, in this area. But also, we have so many people working for the United Nations, international NGOs, and like the foreign minister of Libya, for example, a graduate of this school, right?
That's just stunned right there.
That's
awesome,
right? The humanitarian programs in Ukraine is run by a graduate of this school, right?
Yeah, you put that on, yeah.
So there are so many people really making an impact at the high level, but also there are lots of graduates working at the community level. So I say, the Carter School is, in Arlington, but also in Afghanistan.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah,
so
it's impactful in the world.
Yeah, globally, worldwide, all these people, are graduates. And I'm so proud of that. I mean, I'm just like seeing those people making a difference, in their small or large or international communities, really, taking our Carter School ethos, right? Our principles, our values, and our expertise, and applying them in the peace and the reconciliation programs. I think that's wonderful.
I mean, that's one of the things I have pride in as a Mason alum myself, is that, like, you're right, like, the footprint is not through the you really hope that the main thing is not what they do here, graduate, but you're going to go out in the world, and then when people say, they just look at your bio and they say, where'd you go to? That has that ties back, right? And so, like, just living your normal life does have a connection to something larger than you. Yes. And so that gives me a lot of focus when I say, like, let me help you. You never know who this student's going to be or what they're going to do and how they're going to impact the world.
Absolutely. And in a true way, I really want every graduate of George Mason to have an opportunity of studying conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Because when you ask employers, survey after survey, the top 3 skill set they are looking for, one of which is conflict resolution.
100%.
Right? So whether you are an engineer or a nurse, whether you're a musician, whether you are a scientist, right? All the skills of dispute resolution are needed, right? So this may be a minor, this may be a graduate certificate, this may be even like the non-credit bearing badge course, right? I want GMU students to have the opportunity.
To have that skill set.
So that they can put that in their CV to say, oh, hold on a second, right? I know a few things about dispute resolution too.
I love it. So this is the part of the show I call shot for shot, meaning you get to ask a random question, I get to ask a random question. You want to go first, or I go first?
You go first. So
the Olympics, I'm thinking about this too, structurally, the countries that host it, it's a great, I guess, a great incubator to force peace, at least for a temporary. Like, I was thinking about, like, if you're going to host it, right? If you're going to host the Olympics, you got to behave. Like, you can't have a conflict being the host of the Olympics. So, from a conflict resolution mindset in academia, why is the Olympics just a great thing?
It's a great thing because sports, a particular type of activity, brings us together to think about each other in a different way. Okay, there is an element of competition, but that's kind of competition that doesn't resort to violence.
That's right? It, right? The violence,
and it shows that the kind of like you may compete against each other. Yes, there's a winner, but allow those athletes congratulate each other because they recognize each other's efforts. Right?
To get there is quite an accomplishment.
Absolutely. So I think traditionally Olympics have always had that message of peace, right? because what sports means for us. And in fact, sports is one of the most effective way of building peace, because it allows, like in many war-affected countries, we use this as a methodology, especially in divided societies. Like if you have, for example, in Northern Ireland, a football team,
yes,
and you have the soccer players, from both Protestant and Catholic communities, them playing together, right?
Yeah.
That's a peace building. Really, it just kind of generates such a different message, a different narrative. So I really believe in the power of sports, like arts and education, for building peace in an indirect way, but in a very effective way.
Indirect, but very visible.
Yes.
Lots of attention. All right, what's your question for me?
My question is, let's continue with the Olympics. What was the highlight of Olympics for you?
So, one is I get to catch a few things live, and some things I had to watch later. So I'll talk about the ones I watched. The one thing I watched later was I love track. I'm a lot slimmer when I ran track in college.
Right.
So I was really amazed to see, I believe it's Quincy Jones win the 400. I love just track and just in general. I love when seeing people get caught, like putting that effort and winning last minute. So that was really exciting, the 400. And definitely USA basketball was awesome to watch. Things, as I said earlier, I love just also the social commentary of the Olympics, like the thing I showed you about the gentleman from Turkey that just looked like he came off the street, but he was a pro, or that lady from Australia that tried to do break dancing.
Yes,
whatever. Whatever it is. I love the social, like the jokes that come out of it.
Yeah.
But I think another one of the I did watch this one live, which we can, I'm not going to say who really won it or not, is when Simone Biles and when they had the three gymnasts and they the one from Brazil won, and they both bowed down to her. I loved watching that. That was the part of congratulating someone else.
Recognition of perfection.
I saw that one live, and I was like, wow, that was just a deference and respect. And it's almost like this abundance mindset. Like, you will never call none of them losers.
Yeah.
They're all winners.
Oh, absolutely.
They had one gold medalist, but they're all winners. So I thought that was great. And also, shout out, that's going to be in L.A. in 4 years.
Yes, 4 years.
I signed up to get tickets. I don't care if it has to be like the cheapest handball tournament, whatever. I'm going to see. We're going to L.A. and see at least one event, my family, my kids.
Right. Now, I'm looking forward to LA Olympics too, and obviously it was controversial with this opening ceremony and everything, and I think France tried to do something different.
Oh, they always try to.
I quite like the concept of bringing the city right in the middle, or using the city as a kind of like the stage
for
the like the opening
waterways.
Yes, exactly.
Especially when they had the boats instead.
Yes. I think that was quite creative.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether LA will use that same concept.
No, they're just gonna have a parade in the city. Maybe have them walk down Hollywood Boulevard or something. I don't know. I remember watching the one in China. I was like, what is even going on during? They try to do like very abstract things, and you're like, this is really, who thought of this for opening ceremonies?
Well, that's creativeness for you.
So we're going to see what they do in LA, like come off parachutes or something. I don't know. So this has been a great episode. This is the part of the show I call shout outs and plugs. Shout outs means you can show love to anyone you want to show love to. And then plugs, these are the things that you want me to share in the show notes as it relates to the school and, links and resources. So shout out, show love to anyone you want to, and then plugs.
I think there are lots of people I want to kind of share my love, and but let's put it in a kind of like as part of our conversation what we were saying earlier, and the kind of all this people affected by armed conflict, right? And I want to kind of shout out for the resilience of war-affected people, and the way despite all suffering, destruction, displacement, what they experience, but still the instinct of survival and the instinct of like trying to make peace, right? I really want to give my shout out to these people because it's not easy. It's really hard job. And when the war comes to an end, the day after, the kind of facing the kind of the scope of destruction, right? But then that human instinct kicks in. They want to kind of rebuild, reconstruct, and for their children, for future generations. I think that is just such a wonderful human quality. Yes, it's the human quality that also created that destruction. We know that. But at the same time, I think at the individual level, this war-affected people believing in peace and giving peace a chance, right? That's, I think, something we need to recognize.
All right, and in your shout-outs, anything that, I'm going to definitely put, I do with all these other ones, I put the website and social media of the colleges into the show notes for those that follow up. Is there any other resources you'd like me to share?
I think I would really appreciate to share the value of a school like Carter School working in peace and conflict resolution. The reason for that, when you think about like a typical high school student, like a junior, senior, right, when they start to think about what college they are going to go to, we don't appear in their thinking because they don't know that they can actually study peace and conflict resolution. We are a discovery field. Mm-hmm. But once they discover us, they think, oh my God, I wish I'd known this, right? Mm-hmm. So in that way, I think this message, I think that should be a collective effort. More young people should know about this opportunity of studying in conflict resolution. Really, we need more peacemakers, more peace builders. When you think about all the peace and security challenges we face, the importance of it cannot be underlined enough. And I think any support for that, I would really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Positive Filter listeners, please check out this episode later. I'm going to be sharing all the resources in the show notes. As you know, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch, for his work fighting food insecurity and hunger across the world. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund. I'm also going to share, I'm a big champion of kindness. So please consider sending a Pats for Patriots to a Mason affiliated person, a fellow Patriot, to increase, make their day. So please do that. Follow, like, subscribe, pass this along. Thank you for listening and have a great day. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.